Whether it's London, Mexico City, or even just Vegas, I've traveled all over the world using just credit card points, and today I'm going to show you exactly how you can do the same. We'll go over how to maximize your points when booking a flight in economy, business class, and as well as booking the best hotel rooms, starting with an economy flight from New York to Paris. If you were to book a flight from JFK to Paris, you'd see in your travel portal that the flight price would be around $580. If you look right next to that price, you'll actually see how much that flight costs in points. So for this flight, it will cost you around 58,000 points. When you're booking a flight using your credit card points, one of the calculations you actually want to do to see whether or not it's a good deal is to calculate how much cents each point is worth of that flight. So for this example, we'd essentially take $580 and divide that by 58,000 points, and that gives us a value of about 1 cent per point. And while 1 cent per point is fine, we should actually be looking for anything above 1 cent per point for us to actually consider this a good deal. Because especially in this case where we can see that the value of this is 1 cent per point, you actually have the ability to transfer out your points from American Express to Air France and book with them using their points. And if you didn't know, American Express has multiple travel partners like Delta, Air France, Marriott, and a few others. So when we look at that same exact flight on Air France, we can actually see that the flight is listed for around 26,000 points. Less than half of what's listed for in the American Express travel portal, bringing us to well over 2 cents per point. Now, one of the big questions is how do you actually get more points when using your credit cards? And there's actually 3 ways you can do this. When the first way is being your spending categories. Depending on which card you have, whether it's with American Express, Chase, or Capital One, you'll have different spending categories that allow you to receive a certain amount of points for specific spends, for example, dining or travel. And 3 of the examples I'll use in this case are the American Express Gold, the Chase Freedom Unlimited, and the Venture X by Capital One. With the American Express Gold, you actually have the ability to earn Forex points at restaurants as well as at US supermarkets up to $25,000 to spend each year. With the Chase Freedom Unlimited, you have the ability to earn 3% cash back on dining and at drugstores, and then 1.5% back on everything else. And with the Venture X, you have the ability to earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, as well as 5x miles on flights, all booked through the Capital One travel portal, and then 2x miles on everything else. And you might have noticed I said with the Chase Freedom Unlimited that you have the ability to earn cash back, and that's because the Chase Freedom Unlimited is marketed as a cashback card. However, with this card, you actually have the ability to convert that cash back into points. So basically think 3% is 3x. Now, I'll explain the other 2 ways of how to earn more points as we go through the business flight section and the hotel section. With that said, let's move on to a business class flight. And for this portion, let's actually book a flight from New York to Dubai. Also for the hotel section, I'll also show you how to book a hotel for Paris and then one for Dubai as well. This way, if you want to actually literally just use this guide as a way to book a vacation to Paris or Dubai, you can just follow this step by step. So moving on to this next section for your flight from New York to Dubai, your business class flight is going to be a little bit more pricey than the one that you took to Paris. How much more pricey exactly? Well, it's going to be around $5,000. But don't you sweat, because remember, we're only going to be using points to get this flight. Well, remember, when you actually book your flight in that travel portal, your price point is going to be around 1 cent per point, meaning that for a flight like this, it would cost you around 450,000 points, which you might think is better than spending cash, but realistically, who has 450,000 points just lying around? And even if you do, why would you want to spend that much just for a flight? So how are we going to get this flight for a lot less points? Well, like I mentioned before, we're going to use transfer partners. Instead of doing it through Air France, we're actually going to do it through Etihad Airways, which is actually known as one of the best airlines in the world. The only question is now, how many points do we actually need? Well, instead of spending 450,000 points through Travel Portal, you're actually only going to have to transfer 93,000 points, which is less than 1/4 the points needed had we booked through that Travel Portal. So much better. But one of the things we do have to realize is that 90,000 points is still a lot, and much more than the 20,000 that we used for that France flight. So the next question is, how do we actually get more points to fly on this luxury leg of the flight? And the answer is pretty simple. It's actually one of the first ways that many people earn points on most of their credit cards, which is through intro bonuses. If you don't know, an intro bonus or welcome offer is actually a way to earn points when you first become a member or an account holder of a specific card. The points you earned is normally linked to the initial spend that you have on a specific card, and there's usually a time frame which you have to meet in order to earn those points. For example, with the American Express Gold card, there's an intro bonus where you can earn 60,000 points when you spend $6,000 in the first 6 months of card membership, which is a pretty good chunk of the way there. And to follow up on the other two cards we mentioned from before, the Chase Freedom Unlimited and Venture X, you also have similar intro bonuses as well, such as the Chase Freedom Unlimited's $200 cash back when you spend $500 in the first 3 months of account opening. Those $200 can be converted to around 20,000 points. And with the Venture X, it has another bonus of 75,000 miles when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months of account opening. So you have a plethora of different options. Now, the cool thing about this is that the intro bonus is just the intro bonus. You still have the spending categories where you can earn points on specific purchases, whether that's dining or gas or whatever purchases you may have, where you can earn extra points. And the cool thing is, when you combine these two things together, especially when it's on a high spending category, like for example mine, which is dining and supermarkets with the American Express Gold card, it allows you to rack up points that much faster. So when you're looking at different cards, make sure to keep this all in mind. And if you want to learn more about any of these cards, I'll actually leave links to them in the description that also help support these videos. But with that said, before we get into the next section, I want to mention a few things that you may have already provided to you with the cards that you have in your current wallet. Like first, the ability to actually upgrade the room that you book through your hotel status. Because with something like the American Express Platinum card, where you actually get upgraded status on Marriott and Hilton hotels, that upgraded status actually allows you to have upgraded rooms if they're available. Meaning you could potentially book a queen or king room and actually get bumped up to a whole suite. Then as another thing you have on some travel cards, there's also the ability to access airport lounges, whether that's the Centurion, Sapphire, or Capital One lounges, not to mention Priority Pass, which might not save you much money except for on meals in the airport, which we all know can be expensive, but is also just a plus as a way to relax before you get on a long flight. And depending on which cards you have, some cards actually come with traveler's insurance and protections, which can be a huge help, especially if any unforeseen instances occur. So just remember to keep that all in mind. With that said, let's move on to the hotel section of either booking your Paris or Dubai trip, and this is where the video differs just a bit. Because while an airline like Air France is transfer partners with many different credit cards, the hotels are a bit more unique, and it's important to know which ones are the best. So when it comes to American Express, Chase, and Capital One, Chase is actually the one I would say gets you the best use of points for an actual hotel transfer partner. And that's because Chase is partnered with Hyatt Hotels, a hotel that has great point redemption value compared to something like Marriott or Hilton, which while those two hotel chains are great, it can be very hard to find redemption values on them that actually make sense compared to someone like Hyatt. So if you're going to start getting into this credit card game of actually using your points wisely, I would say Chase is best saved for your hotels, specifically for Hyatt, unless you need something like an Air Canada or United flight later on down the road, which are also great partners with Chase. But with that said, let's move on to the example of booking that hotel in Paris. Just like with the previous examples, we'll start with price, specifically at the Park Hyatt, which is one of the best hotels out there. So much so that you can see that the cost of a room per night is around 1,750 euros. And when you convert that to USD, that price is actually $1,824. A pretty hefty price tag. But how much would it be with points? Well, you already know the drill. If you book it through your travel portal, it'll be around 1 cent per point, meaning that it would cost you around 182,000 points. Still a pretty large number. But like before, we're going to run the same drill and transfer your points from Chase out into your Hyatt account. And you'll see in your Hyatt account, when you look to actually book this hotel, that the price per night is only going to cost you around 45,000 points. Around 1/4 of the amount of points needed compared to if you did it through the travel portal. So going back to that original calculation to figure out the cents per point, we can see that for the Park Hyatt, that is around $1,824 per night, but would only require 45,000 points. That leaves us with a value of a little bit over 4 cents per point, which is pretty amazing. And remember, if you want to go for a hotel that isn't as luxury and as nice, you could always find a cheaper hotel that requires less points than the Park Hyatt. I just thought this would be a great example to show you what you can do with the value of your points, especially when it comes to finding a luxury hotel. But with that said, let's say you're missing just barely enough points to be able to book this hotel. What's the last way you can earn points that isn't with either your spending categories or your intro bonus? Well, one of the last ways to actually earn points is specifically with your referrals. So if you have a friend that is planning on opening a similar card to one that you have, you can actually send them a link from your account and actually earn points when they sign up for that same card. With these referral bonuses, you'll normally see around 5,000 to 10,000 points per actual sign up. And while this isn't a super common way to earn points, it is a pretty easy way to earn points without actually having to do anything else. But with that said, let's move on to the last booking of this trip, which would be booking that hotel in Dubai. So for this last booking, we're going to book another room with the Hyatt. But instead of this time it costing $1,500 per night, it's only going to cost 2,764 AED or 752 USD. Which again, guys, I know what you must be saying. Why is he using such expensive hotels and flights for this example? And the reason why is because if you don't want to actually book a $750 or $1,000 plus room, you can always find cheaper rooms, meaning that you'll actually most likely spend less points on those same rooms. These are all just examples so you can actually see the value of points compared to the actual dollars that they're worth. So if you're fine traveling in less luxurious accommodations, you can, and you'll be able to make your points go that much further. With it said, for this hotel that's around $750 USD, it would cost you around 75,000 points per night. However, again, if we transfer out the points from the Chase portal to the Hyatt portal, we can actually find the same hotel for just 29,000 points per night, which is less than half we would see in the travel portal. With that said, when we run the calculation of $752 divided by the 29,000 points, we can actually see that the value of these points comes out to 2.5 cents per point. And that brings me to something that you've got to start understanding, which is that while we went over how to travel this year for free using your credit card points, it's important to know which are the best credit cards you can have this year. To learn more about those cards, check out this video and see you in that one. Bye.